This is Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker, and you're listening to the Maryland Crabs Podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
Hey, it's the Maryland Crabs. It's Thursday. It's noon. That means we need to talk about something, right?
I didn't plan ahead.
Yeah, we did. We're just joking.
No,
you
we're
would
not.
think you people may know Tim, and you may know that he doesn't plan ahead, but in fact, this time we did plan ahead.
A little bit.
Well, actually, we did kind of screw up there because we were all set to record, and I said, "Well, I guess you're not coming."
Yeah, I got the text. It was Saturday morning, and it's like 10:08, and I get the text from John going, "So, are you coming or what?" I'm like, "What?" And then I saw the text I missed the day before saying 10 a.m. So I booked over. Threw a hat on and booked over.
And I stalled.
Unshowered.
I stalled. But before we get into it, just thank you all for your ratings, your comments, and everything else. We are on Spotify now. We're everywhere you can get your podcasts. And go to all those places and give us ratings, however the hell they rate it. If they give it a review, give us a review. And right now, what I'd like you to do is, like, maybe if you're listening to this, click a share button. Share it with your friends, share it with your coworkers or whatever, and let them know about the Maryland Crabs and, you know, all the cool stuff that we talk about.
Your Boston.
Don't let them know about the shitty stuff we talk about. Just tell them about the cool stuff. Like we had Hogan
Cool stuff.
on. That was kind of cool. Bob Moser.
Yeah.
Chris Trumbauer was last week, and he's always a lot of fun getting some insight on his last year in office.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to talk to. We have our regulars now that we're kind of going back to because they're just really easygoing. They
We've got to buy like T-shirts or sweatshirts. Like, you know, Saturday Night Live does the jackets. We joked about that with Trumbauer.
5-timers.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're great. You're great.
Yeah, we should probably do that. We should probably get like a T-shirt and then like a sweatshirt for...
And a secret handshake.
We'll see. We'll figure that out. But yeah, no, we've got former Attorney General Doug Gansler, who will be coming on fairly soon. We are going to be talking again, after you hear this episode, we're going to be talking again with the Annapolis Police Department. It gave me a warning for blowing a stop sign, and now they were good.
That's right. Antagonize them.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, that's fine. I've done it before. Where's my bike? You thought you were over that. But yeah, no, share this. Let people know about the Maryland Crabs. Also let them know about the Daily News Brief, which is the Eye on Annapolis daily podcast we do every Monday through Friday. It goes out at 7 a.m. now, which is a new time. It used to be at noon, so I'm getting up a little bit earlier to get this here.
What time do you get it for that?
I put some of it together the night before, depending on what it is, and I hold it out until about 6 o'clock, and then I check to see if there's anything that broke overnight and insert that and let it roll.
That is early.
Yeah, so it's prepared by about 6:15, and last couple of days I have been able to get to the rec center by 6:45.
I'm still not up yet at that point.
Yeah, well, that's because you're still hungover. But anyhow, this week's episode, we're going to speak with DaJuan Gay, who is a former aldermanic candidate for Ward 6. He is not an intern, but he's working for the Maryland State Assembly. He's a student at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, going to be transferring to Bowie State. The kid that hustled his ass and got 60 air conditioners for the people that were sweating their asses off this summer in public housing. Didn't wait around for anything. And it all stems off of a Facebook post he put out on January 2nd. And I'm just going to read that, and then we're going to go into a break, and then we'll go right back into DaJuan.
And I got to explain, if you are not on the Eastport Forum, if you're in Annapolis, and I know that other parts of the state, they have their equivalent, but in Annapolis, that's the most active forum in town. It's the most active place you go to find out what's going on, and a lot of stuff happens there. And actually, we get a lot of ideas for what we do from taking the temperature in there. And DaJuan is he's one of the regular posters in there. You know, a lot of provocative
and I mean,
discussions.
He stirs the pot. I'm not, you know.
No, but he doesn't do it to be an ass. I mean,
No. There are some that will do that.
Yeah, he'll jump in and he'll start really good discussions, and you see, and like we talk about later on in interview is that some really good stuff comes out of that, to be honest with you. That, he's really had some good questions, and I've seen some people be civil. It's gotten a little heated, but I mean, he's there with like all the regular posters.
I was talking to him today about the H&M. Have you heard about that controversy, the H&M controversy with the
shirt? Yeah.
Yeah. And it has a picture of a black kid with a sweatshirt that says "coolest monkey in the jungle" or something like that.
Yeah, social media blew up on that.
And everybody blew up on that. And, DaJuan was saying, is this just the marketing arm of H&M looking to create controversy?
It's like they're the new Benetton.
Yeah, it could very well be. But somebody else was discussing earlier, and I put this out there. It wasn't an original thought, but you've got to find out what the context was. Was this kid, in a green suit, and they photoshopped these pants and sweatshirt onto him? If he wasn't, and it was a live shoot, where were the parents? Where were the chaperones?
I think at this point, whenever someone puts out something that's offensive, or some newspaper, magazine, something that offends a group of people, I think you have to assume that they didn't mean to do it. As someone who's in marketing, I understand that that's the last thing you want to do is tick people off. So just assume that they were tone deaf, which it might have been stupid to do, but it wasn't intentionally meant to. I
mean, it could have been just something that the person that put it on just didn't read what the heck the saying was.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? But again, he brought the question up, and he does bring these questions up time and time again, and I think they're very, very valid, especially this one. You commented on his and a number of different ones there. But let me just read this Facebook post from January 2nd. We're going to go into a quick commercial, and then we'll be back with DaJuan Gay. 3+ cop cars, 3+ officers, 30-minute traffic stop with no explanation on why I was being held for so long. I was pulled over for, quote, not making a complete stop at the stop sign, unquote. Me and 3 friends sat for 30 minutes while they tampered around trying to find anything, all caps. They finally blamed the long wait on, quote, failed computers. Thanks to Nevin Young for meeting me this late at night, and we were honestly afraid. And DaJuan had called. When he wasn't able to get an answer out of the police officers, he called Nevin Young, who ran for mayor of Annapolis and is an attorney in town, happened to live right up the road from where he was pulled over, for assistance. And that just seemed a little bit extreme to me. The stop seemed a little bit extreme based on his information. And we just wanted to talk to him about it.
And it was a great conversation. He's a lot of fun. We're going to have him back because he was a lot of fun.
DaJuan is good. I like him. We don't agree on a lot of things, but he's going places.
Yeah, he is. He's a sharp guy.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Whether it's Main Street, your street, or any street in the county that we all live in and love and call Anne Arundel, it's a special place. But part of living here is having a bank that provides what you need when you need it. So when your plans and dreams call for a bank, turn to us, your neighbor. We're Severn Bank, supporting the community that supports us. I'm Alan Hyatt, chairman of Severn Bank, and it's our honor to be the bank that serves the people of Anne Arundel County. One thing that we never forget is that as a member of this community, it's our responsibility to be committed to helping you and our county thrive. Like you, we live here, we work here, and we play here. Severn Bank, we're here with you.
Online at severnbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Severn Bank is a trade name used by Severn Savings Bank.
And we are here with former aldermanic candidate and probably potential future one, if not for something else, but DaJuan Gay. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good. We haven't talked since you were a candidate. We were on the steps of Key School outside listening on a beautiful summer day, and right now we're in the throes of winter where it's -2 degrees or something.
This is the worst.
Well, I know, but we had like 2 inches of snow and everybody went into a panic. And
all my friends on Facebook from Pennsylvania like, so did you cancel school? And I was like, yeah, we did. You say, can you see the tips of your grass? And I'm like, yeah, you can. We're the worst.
It was that wind chill. It was that wind chill that was the worst.
It still is. It's horrible now. It's what, 9 or 10 degrees out right now when we're recording this. It's awful. I hate this.
It is pretty cold. But what we want to do, we want to talk to you because of Facebook, because Facebook is everywhere.
Well, we're a small pool here in Annapolis, so we all see what's going on. We all kind of know each other, at least peripherally. So we saw everything that was kind of going on the other night, like live for the most part.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a backstory, and I can somewhat relate to, but DaJuan was out with some friends about a week and a half ago or something like that. Was pulled over by Annapolis City Police Department for, they said, running a stop sign, and felt that he was detained inordinately long. Not really even sure that he blew the stop sign. Unlike me, that totally knew that he blew the stop sign. I mean, let's just go into the story. What happened that night?
Well, I think it's important, the story, because this is a podcast. People can't see anything, but DaJuan, you are a black man.
Yeah.
And that's kind of important to the
Absolutely,
story.
yeah. So
I didn't know John noticed, but
no. I think and on the post, a lot of people were like, well, why is this?
So it's a picture of you.
Yeah.
With the flashing lights behind you.
Yeah.
So.
And I just got a lot of feedback saying, that I should be kind to cops and things like that, which I am. But there was just background to this previously. So I had an event at my house on New Year's.
What kind of event?
Party.
An underage drinking event?
No, we have friends over every New Year's.
Prayer
my
meeting.
mom,
Yeah.
Me, my 2 siblings, and my mom. And before the event started, there were cops right out front of my house before it even started. And it was funny to me because I went to an event at Bumpers 2 hours before, and there was not a single cop near his house.
Oh, Bumper Moyer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Literally 2 minutes from my house.
Where's Bumpers? I've never been.
Yeah.
Oh, Bumper Moyer. And Bumper Moyer was an aldermanic candidate for this past.
So he had a quick New Year's get together, and there was no problem there. So I made a post about that literally 2 days before I got pulled over about, why is it that in Haka residents or Haka properties that there's an increase in police? I mean, clearly there's violence, but I want to celebrate the New Year.
I forgot I responded to that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'd like to celebrate.
It was during my
New Year's.
drinking time.
Yeah. I just thought it was weird because the same thing happened the year before, but there was actually chaos afterwards, and I actually went down at the time when Haka had a manager of security and brought it to his attention. People were maced, police officers were, just it was a crazy environment. This is at the time when Haka also had the private eye security, which was completely unprofessional. So I just had bad experiences with cops around this time of the year. But with the traffic stop, me and 3 friends. Well, it was actually me and 4 friends because I dropped one off at Severn House. But we left Eastport Terrace and we went through Madison because we passed the little Eastport shopping center, the tiny store that they have.
Right.
In the Eastport, which is Sankey's, which was the unofficial name. But we passed it there. And there was a Maryland State Trooper on my right-hand side just before the stop sign. So I was sure to stop. I didn't even know if he was in the car, but I think he just lives there now, but I know to stop. So I stopped right there. We kept on going. I went through Severn House, dropped off my friend, and I came right back out, got on Bay Ridge, and a cop was right there. And sure enough, we got pulled over right at the intersection of Bay Ridge, Tyler, and Hilltop.
Okay, so you have come essentially from the area of the Eastport Shopping Center. You had, on the Back Creek side, I guess, taken a left on Bay Ridge to head out toward Forest Drive or whatever.
No, towards, we came straight across almost. So we left out off of Madison and we went straight across to, I'm not sure, what is the road that the Severn House entrance is on? It's right next to the Eastport Shopping Center.
Yeah, I think Monroe.
Side.
Monroe.
Yeah, okay, so we were right there. And then when we looped around and came back out, we got pulled over.
Okay, so you actually got out on Bay Ridge, and they pulled you over just before where Bay Ridge hits Tyler and Hilltop or whatever it is at that point.
So you're heading downtown?
No, we were heading towards...
to the Smokehouse.
Yeah, towards Smokehouse,
Oh, gotcha.
So we would have been getting on Bay Ridge Avenue.
Right, and then if you wanted to go back to President Street, you would take a right on Tyler and then a right on President. Okay, so I know where you are. So all of a sudden you're driving along, you're happy, you got 3 other friends in the car with you at this point. Blue lights light up and you go, oh shit, which we all do.
I don't.
Yeah, because you always get out.
I don't get tickets.
And what happened? I mean, you had an officer approach you and...
Yeah, so the officer came up, and the first thing she said out of her mouth was...
Was she black or white?
She was black. She was a black officer. The first thing she said out of her mouth was, "You live on Frederick Douglass." And I was like, yes. And she said, well, why are you running from the cops? I'm like, I'm not running from the cops. I didn't even see your lights until we got on Bay Ridge. And she's like, can I have your license and registration? I'm like, sure. Reached over, got my license and registration. I handed it to her. I said, why are we getting pulled over? And she said, because you ran a stop sign. So I'm like, okay. I gave her my license and registration. At this time, I was like, okay, we're just going to get a ticket. I knew it. So I was like, here's my license and registration. She went back to the car, and we didn't hear from her for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm starting to get nervous. Me and my friends are getting antsy. Like, it's been 15 minutes. I know it never takes that long to write a ticket or to even look me up in the system. So I think right around the 20-minute mark, I called the dispatch station and the non-emergency number, and I asked if I could speak with the supervisor, the shift supervisor. I said, I've been pulled over for about 20 minutes. The officer hasn't came back to my car. We have no reason why we're getting pulled over. Is this normal protocol? Can we talk to the supervisor? And they said, oh, the supervisor's out. He's in the field right now, so I'm not sure. He may be busy, but I don't know if this is normal protocol. Just, get the badge number and things like that, and maybe we can help out later on. I was like, okay. So 30 minutes now comes by that we've been sitting here, and I'm like, what is going on? So I called Nevin Young, and I called
Nevin Young is a former mayoral candidate.
Mayoral candidate, yeah. So I called.
You guys all got tight. Everyone, all the candidates, the aldermanic candidates, and everyone got tight after the election.
Yeah, me, Bumper, and Nevin hang out all the time.
And Nevin's an attorney.
Yep. So he's an attorney. He literally lived walking distance. So I called him and I said, hey, we've been pulled over for about 30 minutes now, and we're not sure if we're going to jail. Would you mind coming down or telling me what I should do?
Now, bear in mind, so as DaJuan's telling us this, everyone's watching this kind of live on Facebook. It's not Facebook Live, but it's like we're watching. There's the picture of DaJuan pulled over, and then there's the comments underneath that, and then Nevin posts going, all right, getting my shoes on, going downtown to help a friend. So we're all watching this kind of unfold on Facebook right here.
So this is all happening, and so Nevin shows up. He takes him about 5 minutes to walk down, and at the same time, the shift supervisor pulls up, and he walks over to the car, and he's like, hey, we're sorry that we had to keep you this long. There's a problem with our computers. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, I had to call an attorney because I was scared. And he laughed because he didn't think I was serious. He was like, you called an attorney? I'm like, yeah, he's literally standing right there. And he's like, oh, God. So he walks across the street, and Nevin says to him, it's against the Constitution to hold someone for longer than 20 minutes. And he says, yeah, we know. Yeah, he is a summer. It's either the Constitution or the city code.
It's longer than reasonably needed to do the task that you were done for. So, I mean, if you're pulled over for murder or something like that, you could be held for as long as it takes them to investigate it. But a stop sign, it should be as long as it takes to write a ticket for a stop sign.
Yeah.
Now, did they ask?
Oh, hold on, were you done with that? So the cop's talking to Nevin at this point.
To Nevin. Yeah. So he just tells him that. This was, you shouldn't have held me this long. And the cop says, he told him that it was because of the computer system. So he came back.
Which would be reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If the computer system was down, yeah. So then he came back, and with 2 minutes later, the original officer finally came back to the car, gave me my license and registration. And she says, here, I'm only getting you for running a stop sign. I could have got you for speeding and eluding officers. But I'm going to let it slide today. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. So now I want to know, why would we even be why could you have even potentially charged us with eluding officers or speeding or anything when everything was we literally had been within the same mile of each other? I didn't understand.
Well, actually, so where you were leaving and when you were coming out, that's probably not much more than, 3 blocks?
Yeah, literally everything was, within that same space. So, I mean...
You've also got an area where it's very difficult to pull over. I mean, to be honest with you, I probably would have gone beyond that traffic signal and pulled over in front of where that big old bus, they've got a big camper guy.
Yeah. That's where John rear-ended someone last month.
Well, I did, and the cops did say that their computer was down. I mean, I had a little tear-off notepad with everybody's information. It wasn't a reportable accident.
And I actually believe that the computers were down until 2 days later, Nevin asked me, he said, look at the ticket. What time did it say that it was printed out? It was printed out at 11:16, and we weren't let go until 11:25. So they printed it in between that time and still held
Was the officer a very slow walker? from her car to yours?
And that just didn't make sense to me. So clearly you held me for almost 10 extra minutes with no reason, some sort of ulterior motive, if you ask me.
Well, did they ask for identification from everybody else in the car?
No, they didn't. It's just me.
I mean, my thought was that, okay, well, they were busy checking everybody else out to make sure that they didn't have warrants or...
Well, I don't think they can do that.
You're right. They
don't have probable cause.
Yeah, no, but they just asked me for...
So it was just DaJuan Gay. Here's your license registration. Your license wasn't expired. Your registration was current.
Yep.
Your insurance was current.
Yep.
You may or may not have blown a stop sign. You drive along and you may not... Yeah. You may think you come to a stop, and I mean, it may be very close to a stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is what it all boils down to at this point. So if I'm pulled over and I'm in your situation, I have the luxury as a white guy to go, well, the system was probably down, or something happened. I can be irritated or annoyed, but it would never occur to me, even if it was a black officer, there'd still never be a racial element to it because I had that luxury. I don't ever have to think about it. Matter of fact, when I get pulled over for a ticket, which I do often, I never get a ticket. Ever. And I know when I'm getting pulled over that I'm not getting a ticket. Is it because I'm white or middle-aged or devastatingly handsome? It's probably a mix of all those things, but I never have to think about it. And so with your Facebook post, that opens up. And we've had a lot of discussions, a lot of great discussions based on a lot of your posts. You know, I agree with a lot of them. Some of them I don't disagree, but I think the discussions that we all have are really good because the two posts were this one, and then there was one we'll talk about a little bit was the police officer who was sitting outside of was it your home? Yeah, I guess it was. That was what we're talking right.
The same officer.
Do you remember what her name was?
I did not, and it was written in cursive on the ticket. So
because it's funny because the cop that I know when I was telling him a story about when I got my stop sign ticket or warning, the female was assigned to I know she said that the female that approached me was assigned to the net duty, which is the one that's assigned to Harbor House and Eastport Terrace just because of the rise in crime that's been there. You know, I would probably say for the most part, when there's nothing else going on, there typically is a cop in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, so go back to the traffic stop, though. So you had the one car, she pulled you over, and she was alone, right?
Yeah.
But there was no other police officer until the supervisor showed up?
Yeah, no, so throughout the traffic stop, it was the original cop, and then one came from the Hilltop direction, and then another car came from behind me, and then finally the supervisor showed up.
That one I kind of get. So I know that part's standard, is that if I get pulled over, half the time, like another police officer will show up behind me. And then you call the supervisor. I don't know if they just happen to be out. And they're just let's swing by.
I called, and I actually appreciated that he showed up because I wanted to know what was wrong or why we were there so long.
Plus, you're a pretty sharp guy. We all know you. At least we know you from online. So we know you're pretty level-headed. We know that you're looking at the situation and you're able to deconstruct it as it's happening. Mm-hmm. And you're a smart guy. So calling Nevin was smart.
Yeah. No, I just didn't want... I mean, I didn't think because when I think of Annapolis, I don't think of Annapolis as a town. Although it does happen quietly, I just don't think that they would blatantly perform any acts of police brutality like that. So I wasn't scared of them maybe...
pulling you out of the car and kicking you around or something.
I wasn't scared of that just because I don't think the police department has got that bad yet. But I just was nervous because I didn't know what else they would do. I mean, I'm thinking, what could be going on? Like,
it's funny that you say that. I never thought about that way. Is if you look at, I've not seen many accusations of police brutality or them overstepping their bounds, except for one person on Reddit who's actually a white guy, and he's very vocal about that incident. And it may or may not unfolded.
I think that the police brutality here is not so much physical, but mentally. It's just.
Which would be harassment.
Yeah. It's that I'm the superior, you listen to me, and if you don't, then you'll get arrested, or I'll do whatever is within my power at that time to make sure that you know that I'm superior.
So, and I guess what we're talking about without really saying it, so let's just say, is there a racial aspect to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we go back to, I always call it the Ward 1 test, that if something happens in some other part of the city, if it happened in Ward 1, would it be tolerated? And I guess that would also be racial. Most people who live in Ward 1 are white, and other areas have, Latinos and blacks in a proportion that's not commiserate with Ward 1. So I always give the example, I've talked about it a few times, a few years ago in Eastport Terrace or Harbor House, whichever it was, where the black youths were pulled out and their pictures were taken by the police because of some incidents, and they didn't know who it was specifically. They just knew it was black youths, and so they were pulling kids out and taking their picture, and the argument was they're in a public place, they don't have an expectation of privacy. So what the police did wasn't illegal. And my opinion with that was it was murky at best, because I don't know if it was simply they were taking their pictures so much as they were pulling them aside, and those were police interviews at that point. And the criteria for me to separate that was whether it was a racial or at least an issue of class, was if this had happened at St. Mary's, if they're pulling St. Mary's students off the playground and taking their pictures, the city would have gone apoplectic. So if there was a white guy who got pulled over the other night and he took him too long for the police to process him, he wouldn't be sitting here. Yeah. Because that wouldn't be a story, because we would assume, no, he was a white guy and, their system was probably down. But you and all the other African-American residents of the town, I think, have to wonder at some point, is there a racial element to anything that happens? Because maybe sometimes yes, and probably most of the time no. But I can say that as a middle-class white guy just sitting here, having never gotten a ticket for the last 15 years.
And I think that I want to be careful with that.
Right.
Because I don't want to be the black guy that screams race. But it was a sketchy situation to me. And nothing added up to me. And it seemed like they just wanted more. Like they wanted to find something, which they weren't going to find. But I just didn't understand. Because, as you said, I just don't think it would have happened to anyone else.
Do you read the Capitol?
Yeah.
Do you read the comments? I hate
the Capitol. I hate reading any newspaper outlet.
I hate it, but I cannot not read them. I have to.
It's a train wreck. You can't look away.
I can't, and I get so fired up because I hate those people. I just do.
I seen one yesterday.
That's the one I want to talk about. Was it the letter to the editor about the police, where they said, "Hey, we can still respect the police, yet call out bad behavior within police ranks"?
I think so. Yeah.
And so it was Marilyn Veritas. He's one regular. He's a horrible person. I hate him. But he is that apologist for where he's saying, basically, he had all the statistics, and he said, here are the statistics of black on black crime, and this is the statistics of blacks who commit crime. So he lists all the stuff that he found on Wikipedia or wherever he went to, and at the end of it he goes, can you really blame the police for if they occasionally shoot the occasional black guy? Sort of like, it's a gimme, go ahead. And I deleted my account and I locked myself out on purpose, because I would get always pulled into that morass, and but I want to reply because I'm not liberal and I'm not conservative, but to me that's like saying, and this is, I wish I knew this was his sensitive spot, so I'd love to say it's that's like saying I'm not going to take my kid to a Catholic church because there is a higher incidence of molestation among the clergy, and I don't know if it's higher, or if it's in proportion with other religions, but my point would be, you cannot stereotype, and you can't say, all right, we're going to take constitutional rights away because they just cause a disproportionate amount of crime. But at the same time, a cop would say, hey, look, realistically, I'm driving around, I see 5 black kids driving around in a car at 11:30 at night, coming out of the PJs. I'm going to pay attention because you'd want me to pay attention. So they don't have an eloquent argument like that in the comments because they're hateful, shitty people. But it was interesting kind of watching that all unfold.
But I think two things. One, the black on black crime argument is ridiculous. Because,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill who you live with, crime happens with who you live with.
I know, and I said, if anything ever happens to me, I want you to look at my wife. I want an autopsy.
If I live in a white community, I'm more likely to be killed by a white person. If I live in a black community, I'm more likely to be killed by a black person.
I'm a lazy guy. If I'm going to kill someone, I don't want a car involved. My gun's right there. My neighbor's ticking me off.
So I just thought that argument always kills me, but the Capitol arguments are a mess. I don't know. I think that here's something, for example. So there was an officer that I was downtown in the Bloomsbury Square area with some of my friends. No, not Blueberry Square. Aubrey Court. I'm sorry, Aubrey Court area with some of my friends. It was a birthday party.
That's off of Clay Street.
Off of Clay Street. We were having fun. So an officer comes over. This is at the time while I was campaigning. So an officer comes over. And he says, "You guys have to leave. This can't happen." And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why? Nothing was going on. We were all
rabble rousing.
Yeah, we're all standing in front of the owner, like the owner's home, and they say, "Well, you guys have to leave. This can't happen." We're getting reports in that there's too much noise. So we all go in, but we eventually come back out. So then he comes back and he's like, "All right, I'm going to start arresting people because I don't like this gathering." Mind you, nothing is taking place. No loud noise, no fights, no anything. So I asked him, why are we being dispersed? Like, I do this in other neighborhoods and there's never a problem. You don't ask me to leave, so why are we being dispersed? And he says, "So now you're challenging my authority, And he literally told me that I was going to be arrested if I was not gone by the time he came back. I stayed there, and he had a long, long talk with me, but I thought it was unnecessary. Because he thought that I was challenging his power by asking a question, he wanted to prove a point, so he walked me all the way to the police car just to prove a point.
Well, there's no law against challenging an officer's authority. Yeah. There's a law against resisting arrest, but that hadn't gotten to that point.
Yeah.
There's the Ward 1 test. Like, let's say this is outside Joe Budge's house, and they were all just chatting. All right, guys, let's break this up.
But and then the crazy thing is, so I reported it to the police department because I just thought it was sketchy. And I get on the Annapolis Police Department's website some months later, and this guy's like the cop of the month. And I'm like, here we go. This is ridiculous. And I never even heard back from that report after I reported that incident.
So the homeowner never complained about you?
No.
That you're aware of?
We were at her house.
Right.
So she couldn't have called the cops because it was her kid's birthday party.
Right.
I just think...
Loitering. Hanging
fishy
outside.
things happen.
I mean, cops are trained to fish.
Yeah.
The DUI checkpoints that they set up, I mean, very few drivers are caught through the DUI checkpoints. They're the ones that are turning off before the DUI checkpoints. They typically have a cop stationed on a side road in advance of a DUI checkpoint looking for the cars that turn off there.
Hey, off subject a little bit, because I just thought this was funny. I was talking to someone the other day who used to work in the customs department, and he said that the best stuff you could find was in the trash cans right before customs at the airport, because people lose their nerve at the last minute, and they're dumping stuff like Cuban cigars. He goes, we used to have tons of Cuban cigars because people would lose their nerve before
liquor, weed.
Anyway, getting off subject. But.
So okay, note to self: if this podcast doesn't work out, get a job as a janitor at the airport.
So most of the people who are going to reply on the Capitol comments, I don't know why. Most are conservative in general. I don't know why most people who respond to newspaper comments. Is it a conservative outlet?
It might be, myself, right? Yeah.
So, and again, I'm not liberal, but they just annoy me because they're so far to the right. But their argument, if you boil it down and you can extract some of it, and you pick it apart and you say, okay, what's the crux of their argument? And their argument is saying political correctness is going to inhibit the police officers to do their jobs. And you, as someone saying, I don't break the law. You know, I'm a student. I'm going to class. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm an upstanding citizen. I'm tired of getting pulled over, and I'm tired of what I perceive as harassment. And the other people say you're injecting race into everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I would argue that you don't have a luxury. You never know. I have a friend of mine. She was a stepmother. And she was having problems with her kids, and she would always say, it's because I'm a stepmother they're doing this or they're doing that. And I said, you know what you described to me is what my kids do too, but I never question it because they're my kids. You as a stepmother always have to say, is it normal or is it because I'm their stepmother? Yeah. I think the same thing with race is that you never know. Yeah. Whatever happens to me, it could just be a bad day for the cop. It could be their system down. For you always have to say, is it because I'm black? Yeah. Is it a problem? You know?
Absolutely.
Are you right sometimes? Probably. Are you wrong sometimes? Probably. Yeah. You know, and someone would argue, look, it was a black police officer who pulled you over, so it can't be racial because you're black, they're black. And you would say, well, then it's an authority thing, or can you be discriminated against by black police officers?
Yeah, I mean, blacks can be racist too. I mean, it's not, I would say racism does not really have any racial bounds. I mean, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, then, but they would point out and say, well, that's the police officer. Yeah, they're discriminating because in their experience, in the black experience, they would say that, most of the contact they have with the criminal element would be black in this town. I don't know if that's true. Or Hispanic. And it goes back to where you had that Facebook post last week, which I thought was a great discussion from everyone, where you had the police officers out there and you say it's an occupation at this point. Mm-hmm. And my point, when I wrote back saying, well, let's break this down, is that if it's my neighborhood and I see a cop sitting outside, I sleep better. Remember, we pay the sheriff, we pay an off-duty sheriff to patrol our area because we want to be safe. Yeah. But that's our choice. Whereas I'd say
and that's no different than the hacker properties that hired private security.
Right. But then I say the cops can't win for losing. Is that Haka residents will say we want more of a police presence, but when they're there, it's an occupied state. And I still kind of stand by that, I guess. Yeah. But I have that luxury where the cop we hire is not, when I'm leaving my house or when I'm driving, he's not pulling me over. He's not. And where you'd say, are they protecting the Haka residents or are they there to make sure they don't get out of line? So again, that's that perception. I have the luxury of I don't have to question the officer in our neighborhood, whereas you,
Tim, let me talk about you talk about the private security. I mean, is he charged with traffic violations? I mean, if you blew a stop sign, would he pull you over?
Yeah, he could.
He could?
Yeah, even though he's off duty, he still has all police powers.
Okay.
And he has. Okay. Not me, but I mean that's
right. But again, again, he knows it. But again,
he pulled over a resident once, and the residents all went apoplectic because, like, wait a minute, we're paying for him to, yeah, technically they were breaking the law, but they were like, oh, wait a minute, we're paying him to be.
I mean, my question was, I guess, a private security versus public police there's a difference there.
Well, now we're splitting hairs because our security, even if private, is a cop.
Okay.
So he has all those powers. But in the discussion that we had, and most of the people who are friends with you on Facebook, so that's the nice thing is it never got nasty. And you throw out things every once in a while that I think that people do get nasty with you on the Eastport forum, and you handle it really well, to be honest with you. But it's interesting watching that discussion go the way it progresses because people are thinking about this stuff. A friend of ours, because it was a private message that she didn't post, so I'm not going to mention her, but we all know her, and she said something. She lives in the area, and she said that Domino's wouldn't deliver to any of the streets around public housing in Eastport, let alone in public housing.
Yeah, they absolutely will not. And it pisses me off because I love Domino's.
So
whoa! You love Domino's? Okay, this podcast is done. We're done. Thanks for coming in, DaJuan.
It's that crust, that garlic crust. I love it.
So what was interesting is she and I were, and John was on there too. Although I don't know if you were responding, but it was a great discussion because I said, I see both sides to it, and I think it's wrong. Let me just put it out there, on paper. But then if I'm a Domino's owner and all of a sudden my delivery people are getting jumped when they're going in and they're getting robbed, and I said, I haven't heard of any of that. I've heard of cabbies, but not Domino's.
I think last year when we had the string of murders, there were 2 pizza delivery robberies.
Yeah. So
and after that, they just
I know at Oberry Court there was that Denise Robinson's boyfriend had gotten jumped over there, and they actually caught the guys. There were like 5 guys that jumped him.
So I sent her an article from the Post because I remember this happened back in '95 or '96, and in Anacostia, where all the pizza delivery places stopped delivering. They were forcing residents to come to the doors or come down to the street to collect the pizzas, and people flipped out. And there was a great debate this was before the internet, so you didn't have those hellish commenters. But there was a big debate about that, where you had people going, "Yeah, it is wrong, but we kind of see it." And her thing was like, now you're not even just talking about the residents; you're talking about public housing. You're talking about everybody in the area. So you're saying we are not delivering to this area of Eastport, and it was a good debate we had offline because I went both ways every time that I'm like, I don't know where I end up on that.
I think it's a way around
it. It sucks for the residents like you, and the majority of the residents are like you, who are law-abiding citizens. They have jobs, they have, and most people don't see that.
Just like everybody else looking to get ahead in life.
I just think what upset me about it was because last year, it seems only to happen when they know a big event is going to happen, like the holidays, 4th of July, whenever there's a parade downtown or anything, increased police presence. And I think, I don't know, that to me is just, it's wrong. Because they don't do it when we have the Eastport Working Together meetings, a question is always put up at the end of the meeting.
Explain those because people don't know what that is.
So the Eastport Working Together meetings are once a month. We meet with the mayor, members of city council, the police chief and his staff, and they come to the Eastport Community Center, and we try to create solutions for some of the things that are happening in our community and around our community.
And how do those go? I mean, are they productive? Are they a bitch session? Are they a little both?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. So I like the idea of them, but I don't think they are effective because we show up, we talk about what's wrong, and then we just pat ourselves on the back and we leave. And that's not, to me, that I just don't like it.
How many residents show up for that?
Maybe like 15.
All right.
Yeah, and then the rest come from Ward 8 and outside of public housing residents, which I appreciate a lot because that conversation is needed. But I think...
And I will say this too, not to interrupt you, because I interrupt you. But the residents I see online, they, especially in Ward 8, they genuinely see the residents of public housing as part of their community.
Yeah,
and they're trying hard.
Yeah.
I do see them as trying to be inclusive of everybody and not seeing them as just people that this is a problem we have to deal with.
Yeah.
I think they try hard to make sure that they're not just residents of public housing, they're residents of Ward 8.
Yeah.
And I will give them credit for that.
I appreciate that.
I would be curious to see
a
demographic on where the residents of Ward 8 that are on Facebook that are vocal live.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet.
Vocal as... Oh,
just on Facebook. I'd be willing to bet that the lower quarter of the peninsula probably has like a 3% Facebook presence.
Oh, down by like Horn Point and all that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so back to the meetings.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate the meetings for the fact that they bring people together, that we're able to talk. It made it my goal towards the end of last year to just be more solution based. If you present a problem, present a solution.
Right.
And I just don't think we're doing that right now. Maybe it's because it's the first couple of meetings, we're just working out the kinks, but we could work on a little more. But the meetings, they've helped out, and I don't know, that presence, that the police on holidays, I just think it increases activity. Like you see the cops and you're just like, same old thing. Here they go again. Not trusting us, not wanting to build relationships, but instead sitting right out front of my door when I'm like you, just wanting to celebrate the new year.
Do you have positive interactions with police?
I've had some, yeah. I actually was gonna apply to
I'm not looking for the good, no.
The
good.
No. I actually was I'm a criminal justice major, so I've interacted with law enforcement a lot, and for the most part, I've enjoyed those interactions. I was actually applying to be a cadet down here at the police station, but then I took a different job in legislation.
And I'll end my turn to interrupt here again. Now, DaJuan is not, I'll throw a stereotype, not this typical, thug walking around with his pants down around his ankles and everything else. Okay.
You got a very Donald Glover thing going on.
This is going into his junior year at Bowie State, getting a higher education. He works for the Maryland State Legislature part-time. Is that an intern or is that paid? Or
so I just, literally yesterday was my first day working for Catherine Pugh's office now.
Oh. Okay.
Her legislative office.
Very politically involved, ran for Alderman in Ward 6, unsuccessfully, but that's,
But wowed a lot of people in the process.
Yeah. You really did. And this is a guy that also saw some neighbors struggling in the heat of the summer with no air conditioning.
That was a cool thing, by the way, dude.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thanks.
And rather than wait around for somebody to get some paperwork and sign some work orders and stuff like that, he raised
$15,000.
I was going to say $11,000, $12,000.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of guys with pickup trucks, went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of frickin' air conditioners and put them in.
So, actually we did like 50 houses in Eastport Terrace. We did maybe 10 in Newtown 20 and a couple in Robinwood.
Because it was like 500 degrees at the time.
Yeah.
So it was
burning hot.
There were, at least 60 air conditioners that were installed. And this took about a week.
Yeah, it literally wrapped up in a weekend. The big day was that Saturday we did the most homes. I think we did 30 homes that day. And Sunday we finished up. But yeah, it took the rest of the week, everything. We got them installed and people were happy.
You know what's funny about that is that you posted that on the Eastport Forum because you're pretty active there. And there were still not many and they kind of faded away pretty quickly. There were still people kind of shitting on the project.
Yeah.
You try and do something good and you still have those people. It's not just you.
What if they're going to sell them for drugs? Or...
Like, just look, dude, at the time, lead was melting.
Yeah.
And, these people are living without working air conditioning. Just be human. You know, and whatever your political bent is, just be a human being for once.
Absolutely. That's how I feel a lot about certain posts that poke at like social issues. Yeah.
Want to talk about your criminal background?
The one charge I have.
Yeah. Running a stop sign. That's about it.
I thought you were talking about with.
There is none.
The guy posted in the forum when I was running for office, and he went on Maryland court search and found out that I got pulled over when I was going to the Eastern Shore.
Oh, I didn't see
for my at the time, like my registration was suspended.
Right.
Yeah.
You bastard.
But yeah,
I didn't even know it was because insurance. But yeah,
I mean, the point is that DaJuan is working for the community, and it doesn't matter whether it's a black community, a white community, his community, or the greater community. And you're asking the questions, which I think is very admirable. I don't think that Annapolis police are out of control, as you say. I don't think could they be? Perhaps, I don't know. I think we're fortunate that we don't have that here. I don't think we have that in Anne Arundel County. Certainly there's biases and there's racism that does creep in and that needs to get taken care of. And you're starting the conversation and getting the ball rolling, which I think is very admirable.
Well, I think also that social media, this is where I'm getting really embittered towards social media in general because it's just it's really twisting society. It had such potential and it's just going to crap. But it was interesting. A guy I love, Dan Carlin, he's got a great podcast, and he was talking about what happened with the LA riots before you were born, and that was something I was in college, and for me that was amazing to me. That was the first that CNN was young at the time, and it was just amazing to me to see a city on fire. He was working in KLAT, whatever it was, and he was a reporter in LA, and what he said was that you get these black mothers who would come in with pictures of their sons beaten up and said, this is what the cops are doing to our kids in LA. Because LA at the time was the police situation was really bad.
Yeah.
So they'd say, this is our kids, this is what's happening. And the reporters would say, look, we don't know if the cops did this. We don't know if look, you have an interesting, compelling story, but there's nothing we can go with. So when Rodney King was beaten on film, what the rage was look, now you're seeing what we've been telling you for years. Now you see it in your own eyes, and still the jury to find the police not guilty. That's why it just sparked the rage, was because I think it was that frustration saying, we've been telling you this all the whole time, and you're telling us that we're playing the race card, that we're injecting race into something that doesn't exist, but you see for your own eyes it does exist. I think what social media is kind of doing is that you're seeing this that at least these discussions that you're at least we're discussing it, because people say, let's have an honest discussion about blank, and there's never an honest discussion, because you come to whatever discussion is with your biases, and it's just people yelling at each other. I will say, to your credit and to the people in the eSport forum, at least, that in that microcosm it may get slightly heated, but we are having a discussion about it.
Absolutely. That's a discussion that I appreciate. I love the forum. I love Facebook too, because
Facebook's pissing me off.
Things that we would normally never talk about, we talk about. We get engaged with one another. We meet people. There's so many people that over the course of this year that I've met on Facebook talking about anything, and they're just like, all right, cool, well, let's just go grab coffee. And we sit downtown at 49 West for like 2 hours and just talk about anything. Yeah,
yours and Nevin's relationship really cracked me up, because you're two guys who ran for office, and now you've gotten really tight, and I kind of like to see that. But this is why, and John and I disagree about this. I hate the anonymity of the comments on the Capitol site and all the other sites. I think it's, if you had to register with Facebook or whatever, because first of all, it's not a First Amendment issue because it's a private organization, so they can have it. But I hate that there's nothing good comes out of those discussions. Nothing. But out of discussions on the eSport forum, when you can see people's identities and see who they are, I think even though it gets heated, it's still an honest discussion, and you're still respectful, because not only do you see him on Facebook, but you kind of are going to bump into him in real life. There's a good chance, because we're such a small town.
Absolutely.
And you put a face with a name too.
Exactly. And I think
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I do believe that there is. I mean, you may have an opinion that's very valid, but for whatever reason, you may not want everyone to know that it's you. And you can make the argument that that's okay.
But people don't do that.
No, I know, but again, I think that...
Has Maryland Veritas on the Capitol site, has he ever said one thing that made you pause and go, you know what, he has a good point. He's an absolute, just a shitty human being. But he may be a nice guy in real life. I'll bet you if you met him in real life, he'd be a great guy. He's probably a great dad. But that anonymity allows you, if you have a dark side, to say, I'm just going to be an evil ass online, and I'm just going to needle people just because I can, and call them libtards, and I see nothing positive coming out of that. And the newspapers would say, well, we're not looking to be, an Algonquin round table for discussions, and they're not, And even if you had a larger Facebook page where someone's living in Sioux City or someone's living in Seattle, you're probably not going to get that. But here in a small experiment of Annapolis, and you have that discussion group, you're kind of forced to be civil and think about it, and because, even if I disagree with you, I've got to pause and say, all right, he's coming in from a different perspective that I don't understand. I've never lived in public housing. I've never gotten pulled over and had to worry about it if it was a racial issue. But it forces me, when I talk to you, where I say, I think, there he goes injecting the race card. But I'm sitting here across the table looking at you going, look, maybe I ought to think about this more, because he's a smart guy. He's got integrity. He's an honest guy. And so maybe there's something to what he's saying. If it's someone I don't know, I don't have to think that.
But again, you talk about the text messages that you and I were privy to about the whole Domino's delivering in public housing there.
Which was 3 white people discussing.
Why would that person not just throw that out on Facebook for whatever reason?
Oh, normally she does.
I'm just saying, but it's a very valid opinion. I mean, just take that one step further and just say, could that opinion be thrown out and start a conversation and start a discussion on Facebook anonymously, but not necessarily wanting to know who was that threw that bomb?
But I think
hat tip to you, Ellen Moyer.
I think things like that create great conversation. From that, we could have had Domino's pizza delivery now.
Well, I think
does Papa John's deliver there?
No pizza delivers there, except for like Today's Pizza and.
How is that pizza?
Today's Pizza, I only like the subs.
You never had that wings.
Oh, the wings are the wings are good too. But it's like Today's and Pizza Bowlers are the only 2 places that deliver there, and they deliver until 2 a.m.
You know what's interesting to me? Someone in my neighborhood has a truck, and you've probably seen it. It's an old school bus. It's a gray school bus, and it's
the
loaded.
Goodie Bus.
What is it?
The Goodie Bus.
That's probably what it is, because it's filled with good. They live a couple blocks from me. I know his mother-in-law pretty well, and she's great. But so it's a old school bus, John. I'm looking at you now. But it's painted gray, and on the inside it's filled with candy and sodas and sundries and I guess anything else, because people don't think about this. If you live in public housing, transportation's a problem. So just something as simple as running to the store is very difficult. So I'm assuming what he did, because I see him going out every morning and coming back every night.
Yeah.
I'm assuming what he's doing is he's like setting up a temporary store in public housing.
The Goodie Bus has been there.
The Goodie Bus.
When I moved here 9 years ago, and the Goodie Bus has been here since then. I'm sure it's been here before. But yeah, I love it. It's like a they just took the old school bus and they have literally everything you can think of on there. T-shirts, food, literally a 7-Eleven on wheels. They have everything there, and it's all at a very cheap price, and it helps the residents out. So
that's what we're talking about. Is that there's so many elements. Like they say, there's 2 Annapolises, but with Latinos, you guys say there's 3 Annapolises. Yeah. But that part of Annapolis life is so invisible to people who live in Ward 1 or
when I see like
not picking on Ward 1. Well, I am.
When I see pictures of like Annapolis, wherever I'm at, people, whenever I say I'm from Annapolis, they're like, oh my gosh, really, Annapolis? They put it on this pedestal. And when I see pictures of Annapolis, it's always of the sailboats and the downtown. But I just feel like there's so much more to our city. There's so much more character. There's so many more people that we just abandoned because it's like, okay.
I agree.
Downtown is our city, and this is what we're going to represent. But I think that if we expand into those other parts of town, like, I just think there's so much room for improvement.
But I always said that.
Yeah.
I knew some guys from public housing. I talked to a couple of them. They had never been past parole in their lives, and they were 60. And that blew me away. That you had these guys.
There are some kids in public housing that I know the police do a program where they take them out fishing, residents out fishing that. They live in Harbor House. They live in Eastport Terrace, which you can, if you're a good spitter, you can spit into one of the creeks from there. Have never seen the water.
I mean, that's a issue. Me and my friends, during the summer, we have nowhere. If we want to enjoy the bay or want to enjoy natural waters, we have nowhere to go. I mean, you can go to Sandy Point, but that's all the way out near the Bay Bridge, and I think it's like $10 a car. But like, if we wanted to go, for instance, if we go to is it the neighborhood past Hillsmere? Past the Key School. Is that Hillsmere? Yeah, Hillsmere. The cops get called. Yeah, you get the cops called on you. If you go to Arundel on the Bay, the cops get called on you. It's like, where can we enjoy? This is like an environmental justice problem.
Well,
people don't have access to what we pride our city on, and it's like
that's
ridiculous.
an issue. We don't have any real true recreational access in the city that's free. Well, to the bay and water.
Well, you can.
You've got a public boat ramp.
We went 2 years ago. We went to the Truxton boat, like where they dropped the boats at.
Right.
And for the Blue Angels, me and my friends were out there. We wanted a place to enjoy it was like 98 degrees. We wanted to get in the water. You can't swim in that because it's like we're climbing out of the pole and you can feel you losing
the oil and the...
Like no, there's like weird electric work down there. You can't swim in that anymore because it's like once you get out to grab the metal pole, you can feel like you're losing the numbness in your arm.
Get out of here.
Seriously, right on the boat drop, like where they sit, like the police boat at and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, well, there goes the one place we could swim.
Well, that's a county issue with the water access. I know Steve Shue's looking to do that. I mean, you've got the Mayo Beach Park, which is only open like a couple weekends a year. But I mean,
but from a practical side, kids from public housing aren't going to Mayo Beach.
Again, I'm just saying that's not an issue that's isolated to Annapolis.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, as we wrap up here, DaJuan, in a perfect world, how do you want to have the police monitor public housing? How would you like to see the police monitor public housing or to protect them? I jokingly, I don't think I said it on Facebook when you were talking about the police state or the occupation. I'm like, I was robbed twice a couple years ago, and I was like, hell, if he wants to park in my driveway and drink my beer, I'm all for it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But what if he was parked there and every time you went outside, he was going, "Hey, dude, let's see your ID. Let's see."
That's a different story.
I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm saying that's the perception.
Who did this? Oh, Scott McMullen does this in his podcast all the time. If you were mayor for the day, or if you could move your magic wand or whatever, how would you address the police presence, the need in public housing?
I hate using this word because it's just been dead for the last year, but community policing. Yeah. I mean,
and what is it? What does that define? But
community policing has to be. It can't be. You can't community. You have to take away the harassment. You have to take away the botched attempts at police brutality, even though it's very, very small. You have to take away that. You just have to be. You have to be authentic. You have to know your neighbor. You have to understand what's going on in public housing. You have to understand the residents that live within public housing, not just public housing, but that live on the outskirts of public housing, that live across the street from us. You just got to be there. And I don't think sitting in a car at the top of my street for 2 hours is doing anything. I mean, I'm not asking you now to get out of the car and walk because it's 6 degrees, but on a nice day when it's summertime, get out, walk, interact, and just get to know the community that you're policing. And
do you want to see a cop cruising your neighborhood, just walking through the paths and, hey, DaJuan, how you doing? Moving right on, and hey, Frank or Joe or whatever.
I love
it is.
that because then I trust you. I trust that you have my best interest, and I'll have your best interest if something happens. But it's not like that now. But I just like to see better police or better community policing. I'd like to see them involved more in the shaping of public housing, and because I think that they understand that a lot of what goes on in public housing is in terms of crime is just because of the living conditions and the conditions of the city and how people are just down on luck and they have to do what they have to do to live. I think they understand that.
Well, and that's what I always say too, people turn into a racial issue, but from a very practical side, if you were at a trailer park in West Virginia or something, you would have similar amounts of crime, you'd have similar incidences of teen pregnancy. Yeah. That is not a race issue. That is definitely
it's a poverty,
socioeconomic
it's a poverty
issue.
thing. Poverty breeds crime, and like you said, I mean, if we were in Alabama or West Virginia, the same thing be happening. It'd just be...
And it does.
Yeah. When I was in school in Pittsburgh, like 45 minutes from us was like, the rural west side of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. And they had the same crime that I'd have here. And I'm just... It's like... It just was the living condition. It was the poverty. So I think that there are a ton of solutions. We just have to get real about fixing those solutions. And I think we're moving slow now, but hopefully we can create. I think it'll be fixed. I honestly do.
Are you going to run again?
Yeah.
See, you don't do what everyone else does. Going, well, I'm going to have to explore the...
For what?
Yeah.
For what? You got an office in mind?
Well, I'll be 21 in February. So I'll be...
Done a lot of shit for...
Yeah. I'll be old enough to run for a state seat if I like. But, I mean, look, I wanted to leave Annapolis. Once I lost, I wanted to leave Annapolis and run. I had 2 chances to run near my school. In the town near my school, there's a vacant city council seat, and they really, really wanted someone from the school to run. And I was going to run, but I fell in love with Annapolis, and it's like I can't leave it. Yeah. It's so Annapolis is a trap. You love it so much. You just
my wife and I, we thought we'd be here for 2 years and move on because we loved moving, and we've been here for 20. We're not going anywhere.
I just can't leave, so I want to stay here and I want to get involved again. I mean, of course, I'd love to win the Ward 6 seat because it's just my community, it's my home, but I'm not cutting out any other offices in Annapolis.
What do you think? Tim's floated this idea out a bunch of times. I mean, it certainly would take an earthquake to move or whatever. But what about a floating public housing seat on the council?
I said that, and everyone, including the Hackett board, said that's divisive and everything. I said, but D.C. had 2 at-large aldermen. Marion Barry was one of them. But you have the 8 wards, and some of those wards contain public housing. And the argument, including the Hackett board, said, and they shot me down quick when we interviewed them.
Well, you just said that, too. I know that the police need to know the needs of the community.
Mm-hmm. And I just thought that if someone was alderman for public housing and for Section 8 housing, which, would essentially be an at-large position, they know the very specific problems and incidences and challenges that are faced by very specific public housing because they're not all the same either. And I said, what if you had someone, and it was shot down as, no, it's not inclusive, it's not divisive. I'm like, I don't know. I still think it would be odd, and I know, and maybe it's stupid, but I just think...
No, but I think that'd be helpful because getting back to what you said...
I wanted one for the business community too. But
what you said earlier in the interview is that legislation and our focus is never on public housing or
it's
underserved communities.
When was the last time they were talking about hanging Christmas lights on Medgar Evers?
Yeah. when light a Christmas tree at the end of Frederick Douglass, all that land use. I don't know. I feel like I think that's a great idea because then you can't
You're
have
the first.
But then you can't have the argument of, that's not our property. We don't want anything to do with that. That's federal.
It was always
land.
an afterthought. I've never seen, does anyone feel comfortable does anyone from public housing feel comfortable or even know who their alder person is? Nothing against the alder
I feel like now people do, because the race that we had was...
Well, this was an odd one.
Yeah, the race that we had was...
It was contested.
It was fun. It was fun. And we each got our names out there. So I think now people do. So... I just like to see, I measure the growth of public housing. I measure the growth of, everything that has to do with that based on, at the end of each year, how do the residents feel? Do they feel left out still? Do they feel that it was only an election time thing? That's how we'll measure it.
Well, and a lot of residents, I know from the white neighborhoods even, they're only vaguely aware of the election, because we're a commuter town. They're vaguely aware of the election, and they may not even know what ward they're in, you know, but... If you live in public housing, I think that the city council and mayor have more impact on your life than they would on people who are commuting to D.C. and Baltimore every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to say they don't have some, but you look at public housing, and it's always been a problem to deal with, or at least just solve it. It's sort of like, or just solve it enough that we don't have to deal with it. I've never seen public housing being addressed.
But we haven't put that focus on it. I feel like if we get serious, if we roll up our sleeves, if we put focus on it from a city perspective, with all, we don't have that much wiggle room because it is run by the federal government. But the little wiggle room that we do have, if we use it the right way, I think is a recipe for success. I mean, the problems are blatant. We know what's going on. Let's fix it. Why wait? Why wait administration after administration after administration?
Well, there was a 7-Eleven on West Street was sold to an Indian company from corporate 7-Eleven. And I think when 7-Eleven first came in, they had some agreement that they had to employ public housing residents. Mm-hmm. And that did not transfer when they sold it over. And I remember there was a little bit of a protest there because some public housing community residents were being fired for the new owners were coming in and putting in family members and their own employees. Mm-hmm. And I went and talked to them, and they lived over in... I guess Oberry Court, and I'm like, well, have you talked to your alderman, Fred Payon, which I believe it's in Ward 2? And they said, who the hell's that? And I said, well, that's your alderman. Yeah. And he's like, hey, no, Kenny Kirby's my alderman. Yeah. And again, that was, and obviously Ward 6 does represent a good portion of it, of the public housing in the city is in Ward 6. But I think there's that, it was a perfect instance, a perfect example of like, this is a guy that knows my needs, and regardless of this geographic boundary. And as you said, I think it's a great idea for businesses as well.
Yeah.
I think like the Eastport community meetings, we've it's tip of the iceberg here.
Oh, I thought we solved everything. Shit.
Started a conversation, but I think there's a lot more depth that we can go to. And we're going to be talking with the police department specifically about, how they handle these things. Coming soon, but I would, if you're interested, I would love to have you back and sit there and let's continue this conversation, see where you're going.
Yeah, you're fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, this was amazing conversation.
And I think there's some people that are out there that are just looking to cause trouble. I think the division works for them for whatever reasons, and I think that I don't know that that's the right way to do it. I think you've got to turn around and, as you mentioned, DaJuan, on the Eastport Neighborhood Forum, and probably likely because what you said, Tim, is to put your name and face out there. It tends to be a fairly civil conversation.
There's some slips here and there, but generally,
overall it is, and I think that's the way we really need to do this. I think that's the way we're only going to affect some change. To be able to do that. Hey, just out of curiosity, after you were pulled out, did you get a ticket or did you get a warning?
I got a ticket, $90.
$90?
I'm gonna try to fight it in court. I am, because it said I was on a street that I don't even remember. I pulled up.
I was so drunk I had no idea what street I'm on.
I pulled up Apple Maps and I'm like, Brashears. Like, I don't even remember going down Brashears.
All right, Brashears is on the back side. That's on the Spot Creek side.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't. It was the ticket said incident of location Madison. Then it said Brashears, but we were pulled over on Bay Ridge. So I don't know I honestly have no idea what's going on.
You were driving your car, right? Not the helicopter.
Yes.
All right. Hey, DaJuan Gay, thank you very much for your time on this cold
This is great. It was
morning.
great to sit down and have a good talk with you.
Yeah. And I'd like to do it again. You've got my numbers and everything else. Anytime you want to do it, let us know. And let's keep it going. I'm curious to hear what the police have to say next week.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And don't eat Domino's pizza.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You still here? It's over. Go home.